Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. This is the Forbidden Woods, the second dungeon of the game. If you've been watching and you don't know, so I run a fan project on YouTube where I'm 3D modeling the land of Hyrule as it could have existed within the world of The Wind Waker. Um, that is what I'm doing. But I've realized that just it's been a second since I played the game. I needed to brush up on my knowledge of just some of the details. There's so much I know off the top of my head. Like I could probably draw out a sea chart mostly from memory of the islands and where they go. Um, but there's little things that I've forgotten about, like what you find on each island, where the caves are. These are the kinds of things that like inform my project that I need to know. I need to know where the caves are. I need to know what kind of caves are in there. Are they ruins? Are they grottos? Like that's the kind of thing that I need to know. Um, and just little details about each location and quirks of the island where I go, oh, that tells me a bit about what this place would look like um, under the Great Sea. Because there's just little details here and there all over the place that I need to pay attention to. Thinking about dungeons and which ones speak to what's above the surface of the water and which ones speak to what's below the surface, right? Because there's several dungeons that are towers. Um, the like Dragon Roost Cavern is a tower, right? The Tower of the Gods is a tower. Um, while I know for sure the final two dungeons are like you descend in those dungeons, right? You go under the surface. There's not much above the water. It's kind of an iceberg in that sense. The wind and earth temples, those both take you far below the surface. I think the Forbidden Woods is interesting because I'm not sure, like with the terrain, I think it's fairly level, is the way I understand it. But I'm interested just to see if that like, I guess like from the outside, it's definitely a tower, in a sense. But I'm just curious to kind of feel the sense of the dungeon. Is like, does it feel like I'm going up? Because I think it mostly takes you down, but maybe that's not a super dramatic thing. It might just be a couple floors. So I'm interested to just kind of compare it all and see. But I don't know. There's so much here, man. That like this dungeon especially reminds me of like Twilight Princess's like forest temple, for instance. Um, there's things. I think that's an interesting like path, the way the path is laid out for the UV mapping below me. If you could see that, it just kind of cuts off at the end. There's a transition. There's a border, but I just think that's interesting. I should have done a close up on that, but alas, what can you do? I love the treehouse modeling too. It's like the everything in the game is like relatively low poly, but it's so effective. And I think that there's such a lesson there, right? Like you can overcrowd your models, but like if you know the kind of location you're trying to make, you know what you're communicating. It doesn't take much to bring it to life, especially in an art style like this. I don't know. Like I have no qualification to speak on like realistic 3D modeling. I have a suspicion that there's a lot of lessons that carry over from this style of 3D modeling that this game has for its environments. Um, how do I do this? Can I not go up there? I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to worry about it. Maybe I'm just going to bomb the door. Maybe that's everything I have to do. Boom. Let's go. Let's do this. Make sure it explodes at the right time. I've miscalculated the timing, but I couldn't have miscalculated. It was working, wasn't it? Excuse me. Anyway, let's get into the Forbidden Woods. I suck at timing. I swear it's different from game to game, right? I'm going to blame just another game's timing. I don't know the last Zelda game I played, though. I've been trying to start Majora's Mask, and I've just had some other things to do, so I haven't gotten fully in it. But I want to. That's a game I never beat, so I still want to like fully play Majora's Mask, and I'm excited to keep getting into that. There's so much that I really enjoy, so much that it does that I think that I love about Wind Waker that I think started in Majora's Mask. Stuff about like I feel like Clock Town is like a prototype for Windfall Island in so many ways. And just like the relationships you have to the NPCs and the way you can really intimately get to know a town. I think that's awesome. Um, that's one of the things I love most about Wind Waker, is especially just the relationships you make on Windfall Island. Just like and they're not really relationships, but you have an impact on the community, and you get to really make a difference there. I think that that's awesome. I love that the game shows you that. And I mean, they are relationships. Like in game, like Link gets to have an impact on these people, bring value to them, become Linzo's apprentice, um, teach the killer bees, uh, you know, something about uh, diligence or something, right? Teach them the, I mean, teach them not to slack off, you know, because that's the thing, right? It's like whether it's school or or something else, like find value, um, find something you can do where you get to really try, um, and bring value to it. Pursue something you're passionate about at the very least. Even if you don't do well in school, it's okay to struggle in school. Um, Maybe I shouldn't say this. Everyone, like, if you can, do well at your studies. But I guess, like, I don't know. I guess I'm just, this could be its own talk, but like, I just want to encourage y'all to succeed in something, whether that's academically or not. There it goes. That's what I'm trying to inspire. Anyway, because I know school's not for everyone, and I guess I want to be aware of that. That like I do want to encourage y'all to do well, please. You don't want to end up like me, but anyway, I'm not gonna get on that tangent. We're gonna talk about life in these episodes. I don't know if y'all know that. I don't know. Like I've always appreciated that about the Let's Play genre, is that like they are very intimate episodes. Like just fundamentally, it feels like you're on the couch with somebody. And I don't know. I've appreciated that y'all are watching these episodes, and thank you so much for commenting. And I hope you, I hope you enjoy them. I hope I don't play them too badly. Hope I don't frustrate y'all. I mean, I know this game, so I shouldn't get into any trouble with it or anything. And really, like the point of this game is not to play it for the first time. It's to study it and to make sure that I'm, paying attention to things, as I've said before. So, it's and I'm doing that. Let's get this ruby. We're gonna be glad that we got it later. This is all key to the experience. But yeah, okay, this is interesting. So this is one of the few times where there's a hard cutoff between textures, right there on the edge of it. I wonder what that's the result of, because, I mean, you can see that like obviously there's textures that blend together from like the grass on top that goes into that texture for the side of this kind of like tree bark thing, but then there's a hard cutoff for the edge of it. And of course there's hard cutoffs like between materials. Like there's this part of the wall and then there's this part of the wall. But within the same object, the fact that there's a hard cutoff like that, I think is really interesting. There's a color change. And I wonder if that's just because maybe they wanted to have a recolor of that for this type of bark, but didn't. Interesting. Like maybe there just wasn't space to make like just a copy of the texture. That just wasn't worth it. I don't know. Comment down below what your theories are. I think that's interesting. Is there a chest down there? Yeah, I don't want to go down with the morphs, but I just got it. Was it worth it for the yellow ruby? It was only 10 rubies. Come on. All that for 10 rubies. I should know better. I love this too. This is an interesting example. So there's obviously like, how do you blend textures together, right? Like there's several textures that have transition points from like a rock wall to grass, but this uses a decal on the side. And that's something I don't use much in Wind Waker Unflooded, just because they take up extra space, right? You have to add in extra geometry just for the decal so that it overlaps geometry that already exists. And I've just kind of felt like, well, I don't want to do that if I can just use a texture to transition between points. But that does mean that like not all my textures are transitionary. Not all of them, like I mean, like even this, like the game is full of stuff that like you look at the bottom of this tree and it turns into grass at the bottom. And I just, Wind Waker's so good about that. And just about like, just all the textures are designed with like just going together in mind, fitting together like puzzle pieces. And it's just smart. It's so smart. And that's part of why the environments are so cohesive. And you can see that like in test maps, that's something that wasn't fully integrated yet. That's stuff that wasn't fully, considered yet. Like, and that's something that like Ocarina of Time doesn't always do. Ocarina of Time does sometimes. But a lot of it is like, just like there's one material and then there's another material and there's hard cutoffs between them. But Wind Waker's just full of these, they're not like gradients, but just like how one texture fits together with another. You see that in this texture as well. Grass on the bottom fits together with the bottom of the wall. That's everywhere. So I don't know. I think this dungeon's doing a really good job of that. I think especially just because it's natural. Um, of course, this changes, of course, when we get into environments that are less natural. Um, like, did I mess up? Yeah, I messed up. Guys, I'm sorry. Sorry you had to see this. Hope I'm not wasting your time, but I have to float over here again. Anyway, I didn't do this maneuver. That's embarrassing. I've gotten this right on my first time in playthroughs before. Did that blow it up? Yeah. Okay, that's embarrassing. That's something like I feel like I should usually remember those things, but nope. Let y'all down. What's under there? Rubies. Let's go ahead and get them. We might max out our wallets this episode. I'm sorry, guys. We're going to get a wallet upgrade relatively soon after this dungeon. I think that's the nearest one that we can get, but that does mean that I hope I don't max out. I think I can only carry 200 rubies. Guys, I'm getting hit. I'm losing hearts. I'm sorry y'all have to see this. Anyway, let's get this. Hope it's worth it. Yeah, it's a key. We had to get this chest. I wouldn't go through all this effort for a chest we didn't have to get. I'm trying to get every chest in the game. I hope I haven't forgotten anything. Did I get the one in Dragon Roost Cavern that we had to circle back to? I don't know if I got that chest. I might have gone by it. Anyway, these things happen. This isn't a 100% playthrough. I'm sorry, guys. I'm doing my best, but it's not a 100%. Let's see. Let's go back the way we came. See, that's an expert maneuver there, where I can get past the morphs just by rolling. If you're quick enough, you don't even have to fight the enemies. That's a little lesson for you. Let's can we go up here and do anything? Is this just for show? This might just be for show, just to get you thinking about things. Oh, to uncover the warp pot. That could be helpful later. We'll see. But anyway, let's go ahead and find the locked door, which is over here, and proceed with the dungeon. Excuse me. I feel like I'm talking less. I'm more focused on the puzzles. And like this dungeon it's not necessarily hard or anything, but I just have to be a little more intentful of where I'm going and make sure I'm not wasting time. This is interesting because I guess like this game is relatively easy, and most of the times that I've played, I haven't been talking while playing. I've just kind of been silently enjoying it. So I guess I haven't been aware of like how much it does ramp up. That's like I can't multitask in the way I could with Dragon Roost Cavern. I felt like that was a little more easy. I guess I haven't appreciated that. I had a podcast interview with Captain Bergerson recently as well. I think that's already up, and I really enjoyed that talk. But he talked about like Wind Waker dungeons that he didn't realize that they were as complicated as they were until analyzing them as a part of his dungeon analysis YouTube series. I really recommend his content. He just recently released like a compilation of all of his Wind Waker dungeon analyses, and I recommend them if you're interested in just analyzing these dungeons. But yeah, like when he was on the podcast, he was talking about the Earth Temple and how that was a dungeon that like when he usually plays it, it just doesn't really stand out to him. The puzzles are relatively easy compared to some of the other games. Like the dungeons are relatively linear, for instance, as well. You're following the path, as Mark Brown says in Boss Keys. But they're still like it's still fun. There's still some tough enemies. They're engaging. There we go. I was struggling to even get a hit in. I was like, what's going on? It's like this should not be that difficult. Ooh, almost had a good parry in. You don't have to have parries to defeat this. But it's fun if you can. Let's see if I can get another. Oh, man. The timing, the window on that is so short. There it goes. Yeah, that's sick. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to do that. You can just, like, use your deck relief, jump slash. Usually that's good enough to get it grounded where you can slash at it just normally for the rest of the fight. But those parries are awesome. I love that that's just an optional thing you can do. I love the combat of Wind Waker. I go back and forth. I want to replay Twilight Princess and make sure I'm getting all the hidden skills, because I know people that swear by its combat and say it's like the best in the series. To me, Twilight Princess is just like the enemy AI is just not as fun overall. It has some great enemies, but there's also like just a lot of that just like waiting for like an enemy to make themselves vulnerable. You hit them in the narrow window and just wait some more. Um, there's a lot of that if I remember, but maybe I'm tripping. It's been a while since I've played the game. It's been, I think, maybe 2 years. I haven't beaten the game for sure, for sure since like maybe in over 5 years, maybe closer to a decade. It can't be that long, but it had to have been before I went to college. I don't want to dox myself and tell you exact years or anything, but it's been a long time since I've played Twilight Princess. I can tell you that for sure. Since I've done a full playthrough, so maybe I don't know. Maybe I played it over the pandemic, but I don't think so. Um, I think I started it like 2 years ago, and just I don't think I did a full playthrough. So I want to do a full playthrough, maybe more on this channel. I know this is like specifically like I'm focused on Wind Waker on this channel, so it made sense to play this game. But like I could play other Zelda games, and I'd love to, if y'all are cool with that, joining me for the ride as I tackle other games, because I love the whole series, and um, I don't know. Like I think if y'all are here for Wind Waker, I'm sure y'all would enjoy playing some more Zelda games. I love the whole series. Every single game I think is a masterpiece in its own way. Um, I don't think there's any complete. I don't think there's any bad Zelda games, at least in the mainline series. I think that's true. I mean, there's games I like more than others. There's games that I think do some things weaker than others, and there's some games that took me a long time to love. But I fell in love with Skyward Sword after really struggling with it for a while, because I think I've talked about this before on the channel. But when it came out, I didn't really like Skyward Sword. But I played the HD version, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And it took me a second. It took me a couple dungeons, because its intro. This is something that I got slowed down on my first playthrough, and I got like 3 dungeons in. On my first playthrough, I don't think I beat the Lanayru mining facility. There's several reasons that the game just like I wasn't interested anymore. Whether it was the controls, it was also like it was on the Wii, and like it wasn't portable, right? Like it is on the Switch. So on the Wii, it's like you're choosing to take up your whole TV when you play it, and I didn't want to hog the TV with a game I wasn't necessarily interested in. But on the Switch, it's portable. You know, you can have something on the TV, watch a movie, someone else can play a game, and you can play a game portably. And so you don't feel like it's a different choice that you're making with your time. You have a different relationship to the game because it's a portable console. And that matters. That matters socially, of course. So it's like that empowered me to just like give Skyward Sword another chance. The controls made it easier. And, just like with that patience, there aren't a lot of quality of life updates on Skyward Sword. But there's enough that like through the HD version that really made a difference. I fell in love with the game after getting through like a couple dungeons. But yeah, I mean, just that experience, I think part of it is like the narrative. Like I loved the intro at the beginning as a kid. It really made you feel connected to Zelda as a character. But then you're on this goose chase where you're not actually saving her for the longest time. And it's like, well, I'm trying to rescue her. And it's like, I don't feel like I'm getting any closer to doing it. It's like, I feel like the main quest is kind of dragging me along for the ride. And I do still feel that way about, especially the early dungeons. It does kind of feel like a goose chase. But it's something that I'm like, if I can just get past that, they're still great dungeons. I'm still enjoying myself. It's still a great game, even if there's like some narrative issues where I'm like, I don't really feel like there's a narrative and story connection like I do with other games. And like Wind Waker, I feel like every dungeon makes sense and adds to the story, and I just don't feel that way with Skyward Sword necessarily. I think it has great dungeons, but I don't feel like the dungeons are necessarily all motivated by story. Some of them really are. Some of them have great stories within themselves, but it just depends on the dungeon. I think Skyward Sword is a mixed bag with its dungeons. Can I not defeat that enemy? Interesting. Maybe I have to do that. I don't want to glide over there to that enemy. Can I? There it goes. There it goes. Expert mode, y'all. Expert maneuvers here in the Forbidden Woods. This is such a cool room too. Like, I want to talk about this because just lore-wise, of course, like this is one of the huts from the Kokiri Forest, and it's like we have to, like, I don't know, just seeing it like taken over by monsters like this is obviously. Oh, come on. Y'all, I've forgotten what to do in this room. I've forgotten several steps. This is embarrassing. But now I know. That's part of the experience. I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's like I should have remembered that, but I guess it's been long enough that I've played that like I'd forgotten literally certain puzzles, and it's like I got to play it for the first time. So I don't know. It's like, did it suck just to walk in and see that like thing on the chest where I'm like, oh, all right, I guess I was missing some steps. I guess I didn't throw the bomb in yet. It's like I was like, oh, I gotta reclimb and do all that over again. Yeah, like it sucked for a second, but then it was also like, wow, it's like I'm playing the game for the first time again, and that was kind of magical. So I don't know. It's like that was a funny thing that we just got to witness. It's like I don't know, because I think there's so many times where it's like we want to be able to forget a favorite game so that we can come back to it and experience it for the first time. And I never thought I would have that with Wind Waker. There's so much I know just like the back of my hand. So just like even just a little thing to forget that puzzle, it was kind of nice. So I don't know, y'all. Like that gave me chills. I didn't think that would happen. Like I've said before, like I knew there were little things that I would forget, like what's exactly in each chest. That's not something I have memorized, but like I know how to complete these puzzles. There shouldn't be surprises. Um, and maybe I was just kind of going through it too quickly. I wasn't thinking about it, but still, it's like it caught me off guard. There was something new, and that was really nice. So let's see what we get. This is a treasure chart chest, right? I think maybe there's some chests I know. Yeah, I get the treasure chart. Oh, that's awesome. Excuse me. That's nice, y'all. I didn't think that this room would trick me like that. But yeah, I mean this dungeon, this is not a hard dungeon by any means. But there's just little things in which I've like, oh, like it's asked me to pay attention just a little bit more than I think these dungeons get credit for. These are relatively easy dungeons. Like their layouts are not hard. Each room takes you to the next, essentially. I know Mark Brown and Boss Keys, I think, like, takes issue with that. Like, it's as if the game, like, each dungeon just gives you a tour of itself. I don't feel like it's cheap. I think it's rewarding. And I don't know. I love these dungeons. And, of course, just, like, the story as well is, like, if you played Ocarina of Time, you have this relationship to Kakiri Forest. And now you're re-exploring that world, but it's covered in monsters. And it's really impactful to revisit the location like this, and just to see Kakiri Forest like this, to see the new Deku Tree that's replacing the old, right? It's implied to be the Sprout from Ocarina of Time. So I don't know. It's like it's meaningful. Like this game, like stands on its own. Like the game doesn't ask you to play Ocarina of Time first, but it rewards you, and it's meaningful if you've played Ocarina of Time before this game. And I don't know, I love the way that it handles that. Like, I think it's really cool because it's hard to do that with a sequel, and this is a sequel to Ocarina of Time, and yet it still stands on its own, and that's hard to do, and yet it still enhances the source material, is benefited by being a sequel. But like, I think like I played this game first before Ocarina of Time. Like I may have played Ocarina of Time a little bit, but I definitely did not beat Ocarina of Time until long after I had played the Wind Waker for sure. And I think part of like my interest in Ocarina of Time was from what Wind Waker has to say about it. The fact that Wind Waker like shows you the Kingdom of Hyrule. You have this story with Ganondorf and everything that he's going through, and his ambition, and you meet the Princess Zelda and the King of Hyrule, and you have this relationship to the history of Ocarina of Time, where people are recognizing the hero of legend. They understand the legend, but things have changed. And just like the relationship that it has to the story of Ocarina of Time definitely motivated me to be more interested in the story of Ocarina of Time than I would have been otherwise. So I think it's cool. This enhances Ocarina of Time. I mean, this is how I feel about like, it's like I think Rogue One enhances A New Hope, right? It's like sequels can do that, and I think that's what a good sequel does. It enhances the source material, and that's hard to do. And not every great sequel does that. Like sometimes it's just about like, moving forward. It's like, all right, given that happened, let's continue the story and move on. But yeah, I mean, like if you've played Ocarina of Time, you know that this house you see here in this room, I'm pretty sure that's Saria's house from Ocarina of Time, right? With the ramp, that kind of iconic ramp that you follow up in that to reach the some of the like the bridges in Kakiri Forest. I think that was in Saria's house. So to see it here and to get the boss key from this house, from Saria's house, the friend of the Hero of Time, That's super meaningful. And I just love the way that that this game handles that stuff. Like it's fan service, but it's not like it's meaningful fan service, right? Like, and I love that. I love that it's meaningful. Because that's all I ask. Whenever you do fan service, whenever you're like, hey, remember this thing like that you like, it's like I want that to be meaningful. I don't want you to just like point to something as a reference. And I think Zelda's usually pretty good about that. I don't think it usually has references just for the sake of references. It usually has them, like, if it ever harkens back to an old game, it's so that it can be meaningful and, enhance its own themes. Like, I don't know. I think there's very few exceptions where Zelda games are referential and it's weaker. Something I'm not sure about is, like, I like the Koroks of, like, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I think they're meaningful. But, like, in Wind Waker, like, Koroks they have a mission, right? They're spreading the Deku Tree seed over the Great Sea. And, like, they have this mission. And that's something that just, like, is kind of lost in Breath of the Wild. It's like, why are Koroks scattered throughout the world? They're just there. It's not super meaningful. I'm glad they're included. I love them as Zelda characters, and I want that to continue throughout the series. I want Koroks to stay around. But that is something that's like, what made them interesting in Wind Waker is kind of lost. And that's just a small example. And like, I'm not hating on Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I bring up those games as examples a lot because they're relatively recent. There's things to talk about the future of the series and like, how do I feel about the future of the series? How do I feel about these new games? And I'm still kind of parsing through that. But I do love these new games. I love Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And I think in a lot of ways they've learned lessons from my favorite game in the series, right? From Wind Waker. I think they take a lot of cues from Wind Waker, and I'm thankful that they do. But there's also other things where I'm like, ooh, there's also lessons that I don't think they fully learned. But, oh no, someone else is going to eat Makar before I get the chance to? No, I want to eat him. No, I gotta stop this monster. No, that's what I wanted to do. I'm sorry, guys. Bad joke. Oh, this boss is so cool, y'all. Like, oh, I mean, it's interesting to me, right? I just, have been playing through some of the Arkham trilogy as well in my free time, and there's so much stuff from like the Poison Ivy fight in Arkham Asylum that I'm like, oh, that reminds me of a mixture of Kali Demos and like the Twilight Baba from Twilight Princess, and I think that's just so interesting. There's a lot of stuff in the Arkham trilogy. Like, there's a whole video essay I could make about like what it learns from the Zelda series. Because there's things I think that I can point out, whether it's stuff like that. There's a Ra's al Ghul boss fight in Arkham City where it's really reminiscent of Star-Lord from Twilight Princess as well, which I think is interesting. Here we go. Let's go to town on this mofo. Get out of there? Nope, can't get out. How many hearts does that take away from spitting me out? Yeah, I don't remember where I was at before. Maybe just half a heart. But I can't afford to keep losing. This is low-key, like, this is tough. Like, you have to evade these tentacles. Like, that's still a challenge. I don't think I've gotten hit once, but, like, I could. Like, it's legit a danger, and, like, it takes coordination to be on top of this boss fight. So, I don't know. It's like, this game is not hard. Like, I don't want to say I'm struggling in this game made for kids. I'm not trying to say that. But it is, like, there are challenges here. I'm good at games, I promise. But anyway, I appreciate that this game, like, it's not just a cakewalk. Like, it asks that you pay attention, and I don't know, like, it's a good game. Makar, there you are. Anyway, y'all, I think we're about to wrap up this episode, but as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I think I will see you in the next video. So, see you then.